Yes fans, Robin here with a very exciting reveal for you, I suppose. Yes, it's the Power Unbound box, as you can probably guess because you can see it here. It's just me, I'm afraid. We're trying to get this video out as quickly as possible. I've been having a quick look at these cards and wanted to produce this material for you to make sure it was ready for Saturday. So this will be released on Saturday, and well, I'm going to go through the cards for you. I've picked out quite a few, but about half of the cards are really quite nice, and then I'm going to go through the others just so you can see what they are. I won't talk about those, but I will talk about some of my favourite ones. First, and as you can see, we've got this Agents of Sigmar lovely logo here, but I'm going to get rid of that because you don't need my stupid watermark to tell you what the cards are. So do feel free to share these around with anybody you like. If you want to say hello, then please do say hello. So let's start. Choke point. To score this in an end phase of a fighter is in each hex other than blocked hexes in no one's territory. It's worth 2 glory. It's not a massively easy one to score. I'm not sure anybody would take it, but I just rather like the idea of it, and it'll be an interesting one to try and play to, depending on how you set up the boards. But I don't think it's going to happen, really, do you? Because if you so all right if you're going to set up the boards narrow, but otherwise not much use. Shortcut. Score this immediately when a friendly fighter is taken out of one hex and immediately placed in a different hex, but not as a result of a push or a move action. So we're looking at Faneway Crystal, Hidden Paths, and probably a few others, but I think that's quite a nice card, and it's another score immediately. I will say, out of the 24 objectives that are in this deck, 14 of them score immediately. I think we definitely seem to be moving towards an immediately meta. I'm not sure what I think about that. What do you guys think about that? I don't know. Overpower. Score this immediately when a friendly fighter successfully casts a spell if there were one or more crits in the casting roll. It's kind of like a spell peerless fighter, probably slightly easier to score immediately. I'm not sure I'd include it. I think I'd probably find it had the same problems that peerless fighter had. So Strange Demise. Score this immediately when an enemy fighter is taken out of action by a spell that damaged them or by a spell attack action that damaged them. So it's basically, if you can take somebody out with a spell, then you can score an extra glory. I think there is a similar card for this. I can't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head, but I'm sure there is one. I'm sure Source was Scouring maybe. Warning Shot. Score this immediately when a friendly fighter's attack action with a range of 3 or more fails. So we're looking at opponent's failure there. Range of 3 attacks with 3 swords or whatever it does often fails. So that's an impossible card to have in there, though you've got to be confident you're going to be meeting somebody with a range of 3. Probably bad against the Godsworn Hunt, that one. Steady Aim. Score this immediately when the friendly fighter's attack roll includes only successes. Now this is an interesting one. Would I take it? I might, but I don't know. This is one you want to have when you've got a low dice count to get a bit of extra glory up. I'm not sure it would ever cut it into the top 12, but it is quite an interesting card, I think. Territorial. Score this in an end phase if no enemy fighters in your territory. It's a bit like well, not easier, a more general card than Conquest. Could be possible to score. Again, I'm not sure I'd necessarily take it. Now we're moving on to the faction specific ones now. A Worthy Kill. Score this immediately when a friendly fighter makes an attack action that takes an enemy fighter with a wounds characteristic of 4 or more out of action. I feel like this is very similar to a Worthy Deed, and you know, why would you take that one? Why would you not take Worthy Kill instead of Worthy Deed? I don't know. That's a good 2 glory objective. Most warbands have a 4 wound fighter, and most end up with one by the end of the game. So Worthy Kill is a great card for the Godsworn Hunt. And Focal Formation. We've been asking for cards that allow you to score objectives within the main activation. We didn't want it to be for Curse Breakers though. This card would have been so nice if it could have been Goblins, Eyes of the Nine, even Universal, so some of the older Shadespire warbands could have taken hold of it. But sadly that's not to be. So it's for Curse Breakers who probably didn't need the extra score immediately boost. I'm not even sure it's as good as some of the ones they've already got, so that's a bit of a shame. But anyway, Focal Formation is an interesting card and suggests that they are at least open to the idea of having some in-turn immediately objective based glory. 2 steps forward. Choose 2 friendly fighters and push each one of them 1 hex. Then choose an opponent. They choose 1 fighter from their warband and push them up to 1 hex. So this is an interesting card. It opens up a bit of new interesting design space. It's kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back, I suppose, where maybe you get a positive effect, but then your opponent gets a small positive effect as well. Would you take it over Quick Advance? possibly. I don't know, it's an interesting one. I just like that. I like the design space that card has opened up. Fumble. The first activation made by an enemy fighter in the next activation is -1 dice to a minimum of 1. Well, I think I would be thinking about playing this on Moloch. This card, I've always struggled with my Moloch cards because they are at 50-50 and I'm never quite sure which one to take, and I kind of feel like if they fail then you might as well have not had it. Now obviously sometimes it passes, but I'm not a fan of the 50-50 cards, and Fumble is one I might consider taking. It only works for one activation. Obviously they can dodge it by not actually not attacking in the activation when you've played it, but that buys you some time as well. So, and it's a decent card, that one. Now this is the first not game breaker, game changer maybe. I think this is a really good card, and it works for all warbands across the board. So this was good for Shadespire warbands as well. I think the Shadespire warbands have been left a little bit behind on these cards. I haven't really done a deep analysis of it. I haven't had time, but I think they're obviously anything that's good for them is also likely to be good for the Nightvault warbands, and there's some extra magic-y stuff as well. So I think Shadespire, there's nothing that's terrible for them here, but I think this whole deck isn't going to bring them up any closer to the Nightvault warbands. But this one, Inspired Attack. The first attack action with a range of 1 made by an inspired friendly fighter in the next activation has +1 dice and +1 damage. It's a great card. I've been playing the Godsworn Hunt a lot as I prepare for the Grand Clash, and that's a great card for them. It's a great card for most warbands. So that's the first, I think, meta changer, if you like. I think that's going to be, we're going to see that in a lot of decks. Arrow Snare. Now this is quite an interesting one. Plays during an enemy fighter's attack action with a range of 3 or more that targets a friendly fighter. Before the attack roll, place a guard token next to that friendly fighter. It's an interesting one, this one. It's kind of like, well, it's not, I wouldn't say it's a free, it's not a free going on guard, but it's a reaction, and it enables you to put somebody on guard when shot at, which gives you a bit more flexibility. You can choose who to protect when they've been shot if you want to use the guard token. I mean, it's not massively useful. It's possibly not as good as Inspired Command or Musk of Fear, whatever it is that the Skaven one is that can do it, and there's various members of warbands have got their own version of the putting you on guard card, but it does enable you to choose, and then of course that could enable you to score change of tactics. So that's Arrow Snare, interesting card. Sorcerer's Flourish. This one has been spoiled on the Twitch stream, and it's a great card, and I think everybody already thinks this card, this is another help that Curse Breakers didn't need. Obviously it helps everybody who casts spells, and obviously it is a kick in the teeth for the Shadespire warbands. Play this after resolving a spell cast by a friendly fighter that damaged 1 or more enemy fighters. Choose one of those enemy fighters. That fighter suffers 1 damage. I mean, if I've had enough trouble with my Godsworn Hunt with Ilthari or Stormsire or whatever, anybody with these sort of single damage cards, just take them off with their single damage gambits, and then get an attack action in as well. This one, just another damage. I mean, you could, whichever one it is, actually I can't remember what it's called, the one that Seer of Akshi or whatever it is that does 1 damage, and then this card, bang, some 2 wound fighter dead, which is a really good card, that one. Upper Hand, placed during a friendly fighter's attack action where the attack roll and defense roll are compared. If the rolls are tied, add 1 success to the attack roll. Kind of like this card. Again, I wonder whether it would actually find its way into a deck. It's kind of one of those ones that's sort of on the cusp. I have a lot of attacks I find where I'm just rolling, and especially with a lot more lethal hexes on the board, you kind of make the attack, hope you can get a draw, and then you get a push. You get a draw a reasonable amount of time, and this one is, it's not a thing you have to play before the attack action, so you keep it in your hand. When you get a draw, add 1 success and push, and it turns into a success. I can see that might work. I would need to work with it, try it out a few times, and again, I'm not sure it would make it into the top 10 or 11 cards. Keen Avarice. The first attack action with a range of 1 or 2 made by a friendly fighter in the next activation has +1 dice and cleave if the target is holding an objective. So this does support objective play a little bit, but only a little bit. You've got to be in the right place at the right time to hold this. I guess if you're on objectives and your opponent's coming to you, then this is worth holding. There's a picture of a carried on overlord in there, which kind of suggests that maybe they might stand on an objective and then you charge towards them to attack them. Possibly. It was quite a nice, interesting card, and it opens up a bit more design space again, I think. Now this is my ultimate card, particularly playing with the Godsworn Hunt. Galvanise. Play this after an attack action that takes a friendly fighter out of action. Plus 2 dice for the first attack action made by a friendly fighter in the next activation. Whoa. I mean, that's such a great card. Playing the Godsworn Hunt, charge in, lose a guy, next guy has plus 2 attack dice. I think that's a great card, and will definitely be going in Godsworn Hunt decks and other decks everywhere, I imagine. Now I've got a spell. Not very many spells. I only counted 2 when I was going through this spells in the deck, which again that means that some of it's not, you know, a lot of these cards are available to the Shadespire Warbands. There's only 2 spells, I think. I may have miscounted, but I think there's only 2 spells. This one is not bad. It's 2 lightnings. If this spell is cast, choose an enemy fighter within 3 hexes of the caster. The fighter you choose suffers 1 damage and you can push them 1 hex. This push must take them further away from the caster. So it's an extra damage card with a little bit of push factor as well. Could be handy if you've got some lethals knocking about. And then we move on to a couple of faction specific ones. We've got one here for the Guardians. Bitter Vengeance. The first attack action made by a friendly fighter in the next activation has plus 1 dice for each friendly fighter that is out of action. I think that's quite a powerful card potentially. Again, I'm not sure it would make it into your top 10. I just like the idea of it, you know, when things are going badly, and they can be brittle if things don't go amazingly well for you with the Guardians. They can be brittle, but if you could in theory get lots of extra dice if you've lost a couple of people, or 2 extra dice if you've lost a couple of people. That's an interesting card, I think, that one. And then Horrible Grin. It's a reaction card for Moloch. Play this card after an enemy fighter's attack action with range of 1 that targets a friendly Moloch but does not take that Moloch out of action, so that's quite likely. The enemy fighter is no longer inspired and cannot be inspired. This effect persists. Ouch. That's what I would say with that. Carrying on then, we have the upgrades. First upgrade is Prized Vendetta. When you apply this upgrade, choose an enemy fighter. You can re-roll all dice and attack rolls for this fighter's attack actions that target that enemy fighter. Again, I can see this in an offensive Godsworn Hunt deck. This could be pretty good. Any offensive deck really. But if you've got a deck which is working on having lots of dice rolls, then Prized Vendetta could be very useful. Leechstone, again another interesting one. I'm not sure I'd play it. Wound tokens cannot be removed from the fighter's cards of fighters within 2 hexes of this fighter. It's a reasonable space, although it is both friendly and enemy. But interesting one. I quite like that card. I like the art on it too. Huge Presence. When an opponent chooses a target for an attack action, they consider this fighter's hex to be a blocked hex unless this fighter is chosen as the target. I don't really like the card, but I just like it because of the giant Stalag's Squig. That's why I put that in there. I'm not sure I'd ever use the card. Quickening Greaves, great name for a card. In each round you can do one of the following. In each round, so you can use it 3 times potentially. Again, I'm not sure I'd have this card, but it has opened up a bit of new interesting design space. Maybe we'll see something in the future. In each round you can do one of the following. Push this fighter 1 hex before the roll to determine who has the first activation, or push this fighter 1 hex after the final power step. Could be huge in a key deck at the end of the game. Could be massive. Again, you sort of sum up, work out whether it will be worth taking over other cards. I'm not sure, but I just like I love the idea of this design space opening up with actually things happening before and after the activations and power steps. Interesting stuff, that one. Quickening Greaves. Spirit Bond. This is kind of poor man's helpful whispers, although it hasn't been although it's not restricted. When you apply this upgrade, choose a friendly fighter other than the one who receives this upgrade. While the fighter you choose is on the battlefield, they are always considered to be supporting this fighter. Now, there's a picture of, I think, Olo and Gruul there. I'm not sure they're the best people to cast it on. I'm assuming you put it on Gruul and then Olo has it, but Gruul's so fragile. But Olo's not going to get your supporting fighter very often. But if you put it on somebody like Snurk or the Blue Horror, then that is a free helpful whispers. I'm not sure I'd use it necessarily, but it's an interesting idea, and also a bit more design space of tandemed characters maybe. Blazing Soul. Now this one is for monologues everywhere. This fighter is inspired and cannot be uninspired. This upgrade cannot be applied to a fighter that cannot be inspired. So get it on early, and monologue is pretty safe. And that is a pretty great card, I think. Wall of Force, again another interesting area of design space. Again, I'm not sure I'd take the card. It's a lightning spell action, Wall of Force. And basically this attack action deals no damage when it's successful, but it has a knockback of X, where X is the number of successes in the attack roll. So you could knock somebody up to 3 X's, which was quite interesting. Hand of Sigmar, an interesting one. This one is Innate Hammers. So it's a Cursebreaker specific upgrade. I think I'm on to the Warband specific upgrades now, though I may have got them out of order because there seem to be quite a few left. But it's Innate Hammer. That's all it is, Hand of Sigmar. Pretty good though, I've never seen that before, an Innate Hammer. Ouch. Spitethorn Arrow, 4 range, 3 hammers, 2 damage, rolls of dodge and knock successes against this attack. I mean, that's just mental. It's for Anslain only, it's for the Guardians therefore obviously, but you do have to discard the card after making the attack, so if you miss, that's it, it's gone. But I mean, it's, would you take it? I don't know, but it's well, I mean, it's just a mental attack, mental 4 range attack I think, and an interesting card, nothing else. Really pointy stick in this summary because it is the best named card in the entire game, and it's it's not bad actually. It's good attack. It's 2 swords, which is brilliant, but 2 damage and cleave on with a range of 2. Well, what else would you expect from a really pointy stick? Writhing Charm, again in here for interest purposes rather than useful purposes. It's a Godsworn Hunt card. When exactly 1 damage will be caused to this fighter, this fighter does not suffer that damage. When this happens, roll a defense dice. On anything but a shield, discard this card. So you might keep it for more than 1 go, but it would save you a damage going through. Calculated risk, maybe. I can't remember what the exact wording of calculated risk, but I think it would save you from that, or if somebody distracts you into it. So it kind of makes you slightly immune to a bit of sort of low-level range damage or spell damage, or running through a hex, I think, or being distracted into a hex. It's got potential, that card again. Would I take it? I don't know, but I quite like the card. So that's all of the ones I wanted to talk about, and now I'm just going to show you some of the other cards so you can see them and let me know what you think. I'm not going to talk about all of these. Well, a couple of people asked to see all the cards, so here we go. I'll try and get this at the right height for you. Bit of a cheeky this one, a new Longstrider I think. Just tip them on their side now, they're a bit easier for me to hold and a bit easier for you to see actually. So that's it. I've been all the way around. So I hope you found that useful. Quick run through the cards, ones I like. I've been out here for longer than I would have expected. Let me know what you think. Which are your favourite cards? Which ones are you definitely going to take? And if there's any questions you have about the cards, then do ask. I'll do my best to answer them. If there's any text or whatever you need, I'll do my best to sort that out. But yeah, if all of you ask, it might get a bit busy. But do let me know. Do share the cards around, please. It'd be great. Get everybody talking about this game. I think this box is pretty powerful. There's definitely some good cards in there. Are there that many? I mean, leaders. Everybody kind of moaned about leaders when it came out, and there are some duff cards in there. I don't think there are any really duff cards in here. A few maybe, but again, how many of these cards are going to break through into the meta? I can definitely see 3 or 4 that definitely will. Yeah, there's some good cards in here. Will there? How many of them will make it into decks? I don't know. There's so many good cards in the meta now. It's really hard to predict which ones are going to go through. I think there are some I would definitely be taking. But let me know which are your favourites, and we'll see you soon. Maybe we'll be playing with some of these cards. See you soon in the Mirrored City. Bye.